14 days before my wedding, my own father looked the man I loved dead in the eyes and said 4 words that were supposed to end everything. She's a liar. Always has been. I remember the pot roast getting cold in the center of the table. I remember my mother leaning in, close enough that I could smell her perfume, and hissing something about traps and rotten cores and things she had no right to say about a daughter she gave away like she was returning a dress that didn't fit. And I remember sitting there, hands folded in my lap, saying nothing. Not because I didn't have anything to say. Because I'd learned a long time ago that defending yourself to people who've already decided your guilt is like arguing with a wall that's on fire. What my parents didn't know, what they had no possible way of knowing, was that the man across the table had already found her. He'd spent 6 months quietly undoing everything they thought they'd buried for good. And in less than 2 weeks, she was going to walk into our rehearsal dinner in front of 40 people, and everything my parents had spent 8 years controlling was going to come apart in one night. But you need to understand something first. This didn't start at that dinner table. It started 3 years earlier, in a hospital hallway, the first time I saw him again after 8 years of thinking I never would. My name is Juliet. This is the story of how my parents tried to destroy the best thing that ever happened to me, and how the daughter they forced me to give away came back and saved it instead. Ben proposed on the roof of his apartment in December, the kind of freezing Boston night where your breath hangs in the air and the river looks like glass. He'd set up candles in mason jars, which he knew I'd think was cheesy and love anyway. When he got down on one knee, he said, "I lost 8 years with you. I don't want to lose 8 more days." I said yes before he even finished the sentence. The ring was his grandmother's. Vintage sapphire. She died when he was 12, and he told me once she was the only person in his family who ever really understood him. Family heirloom, he said, for the family we're building. I should have known right then that my mother would find a way to poison it. We picked March. Old South Church for the ceremony, the Fairmont for the reception. 128 invitations went out. My mother called the day after they were mailed. "White roses are so common, Juliet. What will the church ladies think?" I'd chosen white roses because they were simple. Because I wanted the day to be about Ben and me, not about impressing my mother's congregation. I didn't say that. I just said I liked white roses. She sighed, the kind of sigh that's really a verdict. "Well, it's your wedding." She said that phrase like a threat. She always did. Ben's family was the opposite. His mother hugged me for a full minute the week they found out we were engaged. His father shook Ben's hand and told him he'd picked a good one. His sister pulled me into the kitchen and said, "I'm so glad he found you again. He was lost without you." I didn't know what to say to that because I'd been lost too. I just didn't know yet how much of that loss my own parents were responsible for. I handled the wedding almost entirely alone. My mother offered to help and then criticized every choice I made: the venue, the menu, the invitations. I kept a seating chart on my desk that I revised probably 20 times, and every single revision, without really admitting to myself why, I moved my parents' table a little farther from the head table. Final version, table 8, right by the exit. I told myself it was normal mother-daughter tension. Wedding stress. Everyone fights with their mom a little before the big day. I was wrong. And in a hospital break room in early March, my best friend Claire was about to be the first person to tell me so. Claire cornered me in the break room on a Tuesday, set her coffee down like she was bracing for something, and said, "Your mom's been asking weird questions about you." "What kind of questions?" "How long you and Ben have been together. Whether you dated much before him. Whether he knows things about you." She didn't say it like that, not those exact words, but I knew what she meant. My stomach dropped straight through the floor. I stared at my tea and said, "She doesn't know about Lily. She can't." Claire's face said otherwise. "Maybe you should tell her yourself before she finds out some other way." "There's nothing to find," I said. Closed adoption means closed. No one knows where she is. Not even me. I believed that when I said it. I was wrong about that too, but it would take 3 more years, a DNA test, and a stranger's kindness in a Brooklyn kitchen before I understood how wrong. To understand what my mother was really protecting, you have to go back further. Back to when I was 16, a junior at St. Catherine's, and Ben was 18, sketching building designs in the library when he should have been studying for finals. I asked him what he was drawing. A house, he said. Wraparound porch. Big windows. Someday project, he called it, when I have a family. He gave me that sketch on my 17th birthday. I still have it, folded along the same creases from years of carrying it in my bag. We dated 2 years. He went to MIT. I went to Boston College, pre-med, and my mother tolerated him the way you tolerate a stain you're planning to get out eventually. He's too old for you, Juliet. 2 years. That was her whole objection, and it was never really about the 2 years. December of my freshman year, I missed my period. I took the test alone in my dorm bathroom and stared at 2 lines for 20 minutes before I let myself believe them. I should have told Ben first. I was 18 and terrified and stupid, and I thought my mother would help me figure it out. She didn't hug me. She didn't ask if I was okay. She looked at me and said, very quietly, "You're going to fix this." "I'm not getting an abortion," I told her. Her face went cold. "Then we'll handle it another way." That's the moment everything changed. That's the moment they took control of my life and didn't give it back for 8 years. They pulled me out of school, told the college I was on medical leave. I spent the next 8 months locked inside their house in Wellesley, technically homeschooled, actually just sitting in my childhood bedroom feeling my daughter move inside me while I tried to imagine a way out that didn't exist. They cut off Ben completely, used my own email to send him a breakup message. When he called, my mother answered and told him I needed space. He tried for 2 weeks. Then he stopped trying, because why wouldn't he? As far as he knew, I'd chosen that. I wanted to run every single day. But I was 18, pregnant, broke, and my father made the terms very clear: contact Ben and I'd have nothing. No school, no car, no phone, no family. So I stayed. And I let them plan my daughter's disappearance like it was a logistics problem to be solved. She was born at 3:42 in the morning, 6 pounds 8 ounces, dark hair, and when I asked to hold her, my mother said, "It's better if you don't." Clean break. A young nurse, the only person in that room who looked at me like I was a person and not a problem, gave me 90 seconds with her anyway. I memorized everything I could in that time. The weight of her. The small crescent-shaped birthmark on her shoulder. Then my mother said, "That's enough," and they took her away, and by the time I woke up from the sedative they'd given me, she was already gone in someone else's arms, in someone else's home, under someone else's name. I signed the papers the next day with my mother standing over me. "You'll thank us when you're older," she said. She was wrong about that too. But it would take me 8 years, and a stranger's kindness 3 states away, to prove it. I built a life that looked normal from the outside. Nursing school, then pediatrics at Children's Hospital Boston. I couldn't save my own daughter, so maybe I told myself I could save someone else's, one shift at a time. I kept a small box in the back of my closet. 8 birthday cards, 1 for every year, written every August 13th and never mailed, because there was no address to send them to. I wrote them anyway. Then, 3 years ago, an architect walked into the pediatric wing to measure it for an expansion, and I looked up and it was Ben. Older. Sharper. Still him. We talked for 3 hours over coffee that went cold between us. I told him almost everything, that my parents had forced us apart, that I'd been pregnant when they did it, that I'd had a daughter and given her up. What I didn't tell him, what I genuinely believed, was that the timeline was too messy to know for sure whose daughter she was. Grief doesn't keep tidy calendars. I'd convinced myself it was safer not to hope either way. We fell back in love slower and more carefully the second time, the way you handle something you already know can break. And when he proposed, I finally told him the whole truth about the timing, that the pregnancy lined up almost exactly with when we'd broken up, and that I'd never let myself really consider what that meant. He went quiet for a long time. Then he asked if there was any chance she was his. 3 weeks later, without telling me, he ordered a DNA kit. He said it was for ancestry. I didn't think twice about it. The first results came back with nothing, no close matches, just a heritage breakdown. He was disappointed and tried to hide it, and I told him it was probably for the best, that some doors are better left shut. What neither of us understood yet is that a DNA database isn't a locked box, it's a living thing. Every new person who spits in a tube gets checked against everyone who came before them. And this isn't some rare movie coincidence anymore. This exact kind of accidental reunion is happening to more families every year now, closed adoptions included, simply because home DNA testing has become as ordinary as getting a flu shot. 6 months later, in Brooklyn, a pediatrician named Jennifer Walsh was filling out a form for her 8-year-old daughter's checkup. The doctor asked about family cardiac history. Unknown, Jennifer wrote. She's adopted. The doctor suggested a genetic test, just for the medical record. Jennifer and her husband ordered the kit almost as an afterthought. Their daughter thought it was fun. She spit in the tube and forgot about it within the hour. The results came back and flagged an immediate, unmistakable match. Close family. Possible father. At the exact same moment, on the other side of Boston, Ben's phone buzzed with a notification he'd stopped expecting. New close family match. Possible daughter. Age 8. Location, Massachusetts. He didn't tell me. Not yet. He said later that he stared at that notification for an hour because he needed to be certain before he let either of us hope. Being wrong would have destroyed me all over again. So instead, he did what he does. He made a plan. He hired a private investigator, a former detective who specialized in adoption reunions and knew exactly which public records to cross-reference without crossing any legal lines. Property records. School enrollment. A class photo from the school website, 2nd grade, front row, 3rd from the left, dark curls, a gap-toothed smile, and, Ben told me later, my exact eyes. When he finally sat me down and showed me the photo, I don't remember most of the next hour clearly. I know I cried until I couldn't breathe. I know he held me and kept saying her name, softly, like it was something fragile. Lily. And then he told me the part that broke me open all over again, that the match wasn't ambiguous. It didn't say, possible father, unconfirmed. It said him. Not some stranger I couldn't name. Him. Which meant I hadn't just lost 8 years with my daughter. I'd lost 8 years with the one man who would have fought for both of us the moment he found out. Now we had to find out if the family raising her would ever let us in. Ben didn't want to just show up on a stranger's doorstep. He hired a family law attorney named Helen Strickland who specialized in adoption cases, and she was clear about the rules from the start. We weren't trying to take Lily back. That's not how any of this works, legally or morally. We were asking for one thing, the chance to be known to her if her family was willing. Helen sent a formal letter to Jennifer and Michael Walsh. Careful, respectful language. Biological parents. Recently became aware through DNA testing. Seeking to establish contact if welcome. Not a legal challenge to the adoption. Then we waited. 3 weeks of nothing. I started bracing myself for the answer I'd expected my whole life, that closed really did mean closed, permanently, no matter what science had just handed us. Then Jennifer called. Helen put her on speaker. Ben and I sat in that office holding hands so tightly my fingers went numb. Jennifer's voice was warm, unhurried, nothing like what I'd braced for. I got your letter, she said. I want you to know, Michael, and I have always wanted Lily to know her birth parents. We actually tried to maintain contact after the adoption. We were told the birth mother wanted no contact. A clean break. I felt something go cold and sick in my chest. Who told you that? Helen asked. The adoption agency. They said they'd reached out on your behalf. I'd never said that. I'd never been given the chance to say anything. My parents had made that decision for me the same way they'd made every other one, quietly, permanently, and without my knowledge. Jennifer kept going, like she didn't fully understand yet what she'd just revealed. Lily asks about her birth mother every year, around her birthday. We told her we'd help her look when she was old enough to want to. We had no idea you were already looking too. Ben and I were both crying by then. We're not threatened by you, she said. Lily is lucky to have this many people who love her. We'd be honored to set up a meeting. They chose February 14th. Valentine's Day, Jennifer said it felt right, and none of us argued. I asked Ben the night before, half serious, half terrified, what if she hates me? What if she blames me for giving her up? Then we show her it wasn't your choice, he said. We show her everything. I didn't understand yet how literally he meant that. The Walsh house was a blue Victorian in Brooklyn with flower boxes in the windows and Lily's artwork taped all over the refrigerator. Jennifer and Michael met us at the door looking exactly like their photos, warm, a little nervous, entirely without the guardedness I'd braced for. A family therapist, Dr. Reeves, was already there to keep things gentle. Let Lily set the pace, she told us. This is her story as much as yours. Then Lily walked in. 8 years old, dark curls, a purple dress. She looked at me for a long moment. Are you Juliet? She asked. Not Mom. Just my name, which was exactly right, because I hadn't earned the other word yet. I nodded. My voice wouldn't come. I've been waiting to meet you, she said, and held up a photo album she'd made herself, construction paper, glitter, stick-on letters spelling Lily's life. It's pictures of me growing up. So you can see what you missed. Every page was its own small wound. First birthday. First day of kindergarten. A violin recital. An art show ribbon. She narrated each one matter-of-factly, not trying to hurt me, just telling me the truth of 8 years I hadn't been there for. When she finished, she looked up and asked the question I'd been dreading since the moment Ben showed me her photo. Did you want to keep me? Yes, I said. I wanted to keep you more than anything in the world. But I was 18 and my parents, your biological grandparents, told me I couldn't. They told me you'd have a better life with someone else. So I listened. And I have regretted it every single day since. She thought about that with the strange, careful seriousness only kids seem to manage. Then why didn't you come find me? Because we didn't know how, Ben said. Not until now. She nodded slowly, like she was filing it away to think about later. Then she looked at both of us and said, So you're like, my original parents? Yes, I said. Cool, she said. Can I show you my room? We visited 3 more times over the next month. Each time, she opened a little more. And then, on a Friday afternoon in late February, my mother happened to be driving through Brooklyn and stopped at a red light at exactly the wrong moment. She was on her way to visit a friend when she stopped at that red light and saw him. Then, walking down the sidewalk holding a little girl's hand. My mother said later that her heart actually stopped because the girl walking next to him had my exact curls. My exact walk. Something in her recognized it before her mind had caught up. She followed them. Watched Ben drop the girl off at a blue Victorian on Stamen Street. Wrote down the address. And then she spent the next 24 hours doing what my mother always did best, digging. Property records. Social media. Adoption registries. By Saturday morning, she knew almost everything. Sunday, 9 in the morning, there was a knock on my apartment door. Loud. Insistent. Ben was out grocery shopping. I opened it and my parents pushed past me into my own home before I could say a word. We need to talk about the child, my mother said. What child? Don't lie to us, Juliet. We saw Benjamin with her. You found her, my father said, like an accusation, like I'd committed a crime by finding my own daughter. You told me a lot of things that weren't true, I said. My mother's face went red. We gave you a chance to move on with your life. And this is how you repay us, dragging up the past 2 weeks before your wedding. I was gripping my coffee mug so hard it cracked in my hand, and I didn't even notice until later. Get out, I said. They didn't move. My mother's voice dropped into something colder. If you don't end this immediately, we'll tell Benjamin the truth about you. She actually laughed. Does he know you had no idea who the father even was? The lie came out of her so easily it scared me. Ben is the father, I said. The DNA test proved it. Her face went white. My father recovered faster than she did. Even if that's true, and I doubt it, that child is gone. Legally adopted. You have no claim. We're not trying to take her, I said. We're trying to be part of her life. Something you made sure never happened for 8 years. My mother's voice shook with something that wasn't quite fear and wasn't quite rage. If you pursue this, you'll destroy your relationship with us. Good, I said. They left. But I knew, the way you know weather is coming before the sky changes, that it wasn't over. It was just the opening move. For the next 2 weeks, they tried everything they had. Threats about what the church would think. Guilt about everything they'd supposedly done for me. They even offered to pay for a European honeymoon if I just quietly let it go, like Lily was a line item they could buy their way out of. None of it worked. On March 13th, I finally blocked both their numbers. That's when they decided on their last move: tell Ben everything themselves, frame me as a liar, and hope he'd walk away from the wedding entirely. What they didn't know was that a dinner invitation, a formal one, sent 3 weeks earlier, before any of this had even surfaced, was already sitting in the mail. My parents thought they'd built a trap. They had no idea Ben had already built one of his own, and that he'd invited 40 witnesses to watch it spring. We drove to my parents' house on March 14th. Ben brought his phone. I brought my engagement ring in my pocket, because honestly, I wasn't sure I'd still be wearing it by the end of the night. The Anderson house looked the way it always did: immaculate lawn, good china already out, church directories stacked in the foyer like proof of respectability. My mother greeted us at the door too sweetly. "Benjamin, you look so handsome." "Juliet, so lucky." The translation, as always, was clear: you could do better. There were 4 place settings at the table. I asked who else was coming. "Just family," my mother said. The 4th chair stayed empty the whole night. I thought it was decoration. It wasn't. My father said a long grace, pointed and strange, all about honesty in marriage. Then, right as I lifted my fork for the first bite, he set his own fork down and looked at Ben. "There's something you need to know about Juliet before you marry her." A pause, time for effect. "She had a baby 8 years ago. She gave it up for adoption and never told you." Ben set his fork down too. Calm. Unhurried. "I know," he said. My mother blinked like the words hadn't landed right. "You know?" "Yes. Juliet told me over a year ago." My father recovered fast, his voice climbing. "Did she tell you she has no idea who the father is? That she was seeing multiple men after your breakup, and that baby could have been anyone's?" I started to stand. My mother cut me off before I could get a word out. "Sit down, Juliet. The adults are talking." I sat. I stayed silent. My hands were clenched so hard under the table my nails left marks. Ben's hand covered mine. My father kept going, warming to it now, cruelty picking up speed. "She tried to trap some man with that bastard baby. When he wouldn't marry her, she threw it away like garbage." Ben looked my father dead in the eye. His voice never rose. "Actually," he said, "I know exactly who the father is." A beat. "And your daughter isn't the liar in this family. You are." The room went dead silent. "What are you talking about?" my father said. "I'm her father. The DNA test confirmed it 6 months ago." He laid the timeline out plainly: December 2016, when we were together; January 2017, when they separated us while I was 2 months pregnant; the closed adoption they forced through to bury it. "Should I keep going?" My mother's voice came out thin. "You have no right to know my own daughter?" Ben said. "Interesting position for a grandmother to take." My father stood up. "Even if you are the father, which I doubt, that child is gone. Legally adopted. You have no claim." "We've been in contact with her for 6 weeks, Ben said." My mother's voice cracked open. "You've what?" He set his phone on the table, screen up. "Her name is Lily. Lily Elizabeth Walsh. She lives in Brooklyn with 2 people who love her, and she knows exactly who we are." He opened a photo: Lily, him, and me, all grinning, Lily holding a hand-lettered sign: "See you at the rehearsal dinner." My mother leaned in over that photo, and her voice dropped into something venomous. "Don't let this trap you too. She abandoned her own daughter like trash. She's rotten to the core." Ben's voice went cold and level. "She didn't abandon anyone. You stole her daughter. And you're about to lose your own." My mother shot up from her chair, shaking. "If you continue this circus, we will not attend your wedding. We will tell the entire church what kind of woman she is. Everyone will know what you've done." I stood too, the ring still on my finger. "Then you won't be invited to the ceremony," I said. "You can't uninvite your own parents." "Watch me." She played her last card. She'd call the Walsh family herself tonight, tell them I was unstable, that I was harassing them. Ben didn't even blink. Go ahead. They already know the whole story, including your role in it. And they have lawyers. We left. Drove 10 minutes in silence before I finally said it out loud. They're not going to let this go quietly. I know, Ben said. That's why I already invited them to the rehearsal dinner. I stared at him. You what? He'd sent the formal invitation 3 weeks earlier, before any of this had even blown up, because he'd suspected all along they'd eventually find out, and he wanted the confrontation to happen in front of witnesses. Somewhere they couldn't quietly rewrite the story afterward. 40 guests. Both families. Colleagues. Church friends. People who thought they knew exactly who I was. What if they make a scene? I asked. Then Lily will finally see exactly why we kept her away from them, he said. And so will everyone else. The Fairmont's private event room was already full when my parents arrived, deliberately late, making an entrance the way they always did. My mother in navy and pearls, my father in a suit, both of them looking exactly like the respectable, church-going couple everyone in that room believed them to be. Ben's sister Caroline leaned over and whispered, "They actually came." You ready? No, I said. But let's do it anyway. 40 people. Ben's family down from Vermont. My hospital colleagues. His architecture partners. 5 church members, the ones from the progressive side of the congregation who'd never quite fit with my parents' crowd. And at table 1, closest to the exit so they could leave quickly if things went wrong, sat Jennifer, Michael, and Lily in a white dress with a purple sash to match the wedding colors. Her idea. Dinner went on the way rehearsal dinners do: salmon, roasted vegetables, easy conversation. The best man told a story about Ben in college. Claire told one about me from nursing school. Ben's father stood and talked about second chances and finding your way back to love, and my parents sat through all of it with their faces carved out of stone. Then Ben stood up and the room quieted on its own. Most of you know Juliet, and I dated in high school, he said. What you might not know is that we spent 8 years apart. Family issues. Bad timing. His eyes moved once, briefly, to my parents. But 3 years ago, we found each other again. And this time, nothing was going to keep us apart. He looked at me. Juliet is the strongest person I've ever known. She's survived things that would break most people, and she's done it with more grace than they deserved. He paused. There's someone else who wants to say hi. The door opened. Jennifer walked in holding the hand of a little girl in a white dress with a purple sash. The room went completely silent. Lily walked straight toward the head table, her eyes locked on mine, and my mother's face went the color of paper. Lily reached me and smiled. Hi, she said. I'm Lily. Then she turned to face the room, her voice small but perfectly clear. I'm Juliet and Ben's daughter. Well, biological daughter. I have 2 moms and 2 dads. It's kind of cool. Someone near the back said, You have a daughter? Claire stood up before I could even find words. Yes. And it's a beautiful story. Let them tell it. Ben explained it plainly. The adoption 8 years ago, the DNA match, the reunion, how generous Jennifer and Michael had been in letting us back into her life. Jennifer stood too, her hand resting on Lily's shoulder. Lily is lucky to have this many people who love her, she said. We're honored to share her. That's when my mother stood up. Her voice was shaking. This is inappropriate. This child should not be here. Caroline turned around slowly. Excuse me, who are you? I'm Juliet's mother. The same mother, Caroline said, who forced an 18-year-old to give up her baby? We did what was best. Ben's father cut her off, standing now too. Best for who? Certainly not for Juliet. Certainly not for Lily. The whole room was staring at my mother now, and for the first time in my life, I watched her realize that not a single person in it was on her side. My father tried to pull her toward the door. She shook him off and turned instead to Lily. You don't belong here, she said. Lily looked up at her, 8 years old, steady, unflinching. Are you my grandma? My mother couldn't answer. Juliet told me I have grandparents who didn't want me to exist, Lily said. Is that you? Dead silence. It's not that simple, my mother finally managed. It sounds pretty simple, Lily said. Then Ruth, an elderly woman who'd sat in the same pew as my mother for 20 years, stood up. Patricia Anderson. I have known you for 2 decades. I have never been more disappointed in my life. After that, it wasn't just Ruth. One by one, people who'd known me for years stood and said their piece, colleagues, Ben's business partner, even more of the church members my parents had spent decades trying to impress. Someone said giving up your grandchild wasn't what their faith taught at all. My mother grabbed my father's arm and headed for the door, then stopped, turned back one last time. You'll regret this, Juliet. All of you will. And then she walked out, and the door closed behind her, and the whole room exhaled at once. Someone started clapping. Then everyone did. Not to celebrate my parents leaving, for something bigger than that. For Lily's courage. For Jennifer and Michael's generosity. For a family that had somehow, against every odd, found its way back to whole. Lily looked around, confused. Why is everyone clapping? Because we're a family, I told her. All of us. All of us. She hesitated, then looked up at me, suddenly shy. Can I call you Mom? Or is that weird, since I already have a mom? I was crying too hard to answer right away. You can call me whatever feels right, I finally said. She thought about it seriously, the way she thought about everything. Okay, Mom Juliet. And Mom Jennifer. She nodded, satisfied, like she'd just solved something. Like that. I held her hand for the first time without a therapist watching us. 8 years late. But finally, undeniably real. We got married the next day. March 29th, 3 in the afternoon, Old South Church, 128 guests. My parents weren't among them. Lily was the flower girl, same white dress, purple flowers this time instead of a sash. She walked down the aisle ahead of me, and I watched Ben's face break open with tears the second he saw the two of us together. Our vows had one line I'd written myself, the only line that mattered to me. I promised to always choose truth over comfort and love over fear. The pastor talked about how a marriage isn't just two people, it's the family you choose to build around it. The camera, if there'd been one, would have caught Lily and Jennifer and Michael and Ben's parents all sitting together, smiling like they'd known each other for years instead of weeks. At the reception, after our first dance, Lily tugged at my dress and asked if she could join. We pulled her onto the floor between us, 3 of us holding hands in a loose circle, laughing at nothing in particular, while Jennifer and Michael watched from the side. Not threatened. Just happy. Ben's mother cried the whole time. A week after the wedding, I sent my parents one certified letter. It was short. I will not be in contact with you. You are not welcome in my life, my marriage, or my daughter's life. If you attempt contact, I will pursue legal options. You had 18 years to be my parents. You chose control over love. I'm choosing differently. I never got a response. I heard through a mutual church friend, months later, that they'd quietly left the congregation. Too many people asking questions about a granddaughter they couldn't explain away anymore. I thought I'd feel guilty, cutting them off completely. I didn't. I felt free in a way I hadn't felt since I was 17 years old with a sketch of a house folded up in my backpack. These days, Lily still lives with Jennifer and Michael in Brooklyn. That's her home, her school, her real, primary life. But she comes to us every Wednesday for dinner, and every other weekend we're all in family therapy together. Me, Ben, Jennifer,